Good evening. My name is Brian Gromkowski. I'm one of the assistant directors of graduate admissions here at William Patterson University. I want to make sure we have the opportunity to thank all of you for taking time out of your schedule to join us today. I think it goes without saying that these are certainly interesting times in which we find ourselves and challenging times. And I know perhaps time is more precious than ever. So whether there were work obligations, dinner obligations, family obligations, remote learning, and everything in between, we really thank you for your time to join us. We're sensitive to your time. We're going to make sure that we get you all the information that you need and that you can get back to whatever responsibilities you may have ahead for the rest of the evening. I'm joined here by Dr. Winnie Ma, who is the program director for our MA in Clinical and Counseling Psychology. She's going to be speaking in just a moment about her program and talking through some of the details. Two little quick things about housekeeping before we begin. First, I want to make sure you know we are recording this presentation in its entirety. I know sometimes we have students that join us a little bit late and miss a few slides on the front end, or perhaps have to duck out a little bit early for one reason or another. So we are going to be sharing an email with you that will include the direct link to our YouTube channel for the recording that we will have. So the hope is if you need to, if it would be a benefit for you, if you need to refer back to any of this, you can do so from the comfort of your couch or wherever is convenient for you in the future. Also, as we go through, if you do have any questions, we would encourage you to type them in the chat box there on the GoToWebinar screen. We are going to reserve time at the end of our presentation for questions, but one thing that I would make sure you know, if you do have very case-specific questions, things about courses you may have taken or other things that would be very limited to your own experience, we're going to have an email address that we're going to share at the end of the presentation. I would encourage you to direct those questions there to make sure that we can get you the best answer possible. For more general questions, for things that would be a benefit to the full audience, we'll read them off and Dr. Ma will have the opportunity to go through and answer your questions. So I know you're not here to listen to me talk, you're here for what Dr. Ma has to say, so take it away.
So thank you, Brian. So hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Winnie Ma. I'm the director of the counseling and clinical and counseling psychology at William Patterson University. So I think all of you sort of goes without saying that it's been a challenging year. And in so many ways, I think the issue with mental health and it's becoming more and more important and sort of on the front of everyone's mind, right? Both our physical health and mental health issues. And so the area going into the area of clinical and counseling psychology, I think is definitely an important aspect, sort of the kind of getting into the field of mental health counseling or mental health, becoming a mental health professional. So my goal today is to introduce you our program and probably hopefully talk about 15 to 20 minutes or so. And then I'm going to open up more Q&A. And depending on how much time we have, I can go and delve into a little bit more details about the different aspects of our coursework and admissions process. But right now, I'm just going to provide some overview. Okay. So our program is a combined clinical and counseling psychology master's program. And this is a program basically prepares students to the professional practice of counseling, psychological assessment, and mental health research. And primarily, we're training you to become a mental health professional, basically a master's level mental health counselor. But with that, we also provide experience for students to be able to engage in mental health research and also or a psychological assessment experience, so that later on, for those of you who are interested going in on to doctoral programs, you're much better prepared for that. So with that in mind, so our curriculum actually provide the grounding both in theories. So we're looking at the latest, the more up-to-date psychological theories and interventions that will be applied in a wide range of settings, including mental health clinics, academic settings, and research settings. Another thing that I think sort of important for all of you to know about our program is that we're very much a social justice and multicultural focused program. And our goal is to train our students to be able to serve the communities that has traditionally been underserved and marginalized groups of our society. Okay. And also, we also live in the area. We're also located in the area of northern New Jersey, where we have a racially and culturally diverse group of population in the area. So a lot of our students do stay in New York, New Jersey area, and will be that you will have the experience both through your coursework and your practicum experience to learn about sort of the working with the culturally diverse populations. Okay. So our program is a 60 credit license, sort of 60 credit licensure route, and also a 48 credit non-licensure route. So this actually probably requires a little bit of explanation. So in terms of the licensure aspect, here in the state of New Jersey, the requirement to pursue a master's level licensure, so in New Jersey, it's called the LPC, the Licensed Professional Counselor Licensure. The requirement is that you need to graduate from a program with master's program with 60 credits, and then it has to have a name counseling in there. So which our program will actually meet the requirement to apply for licensure. Okay. So that's the licensure where the licensure route comes in. That said, well, I should just let me kind of qualify that majority of our students, I would say upwards of 90% of our students go for the 60 credit route. Okay, and because the licensure requirement, 60 credit licensure requirement applies to other states as well. But we do have some students who decided that they are not necessarily interested in becoming a mental health licensed mental health professional for various reasons. Maybe they decided going to more of a research career or other type of higher education settings, and a human service setting does not necessarily require them to become licensed. We also have a good number of students actually wanted to go on to doctoral programs right away. So in that case, they will later on pursue a psychologist licensure rather than a master's level mental health professional licensure. So those are the students that will go for the 48 credits. Okay, so either way, with this program, you can actually complete them in 2 years, full-time, on a full-time basis, basically 12 credits, 4 classes per semester, and you can complete these in 2 years. Or some students who are coming in with a part-time, so for example, if other work obligations, you cannot take 4 classes per semester, you can do this program part-time, and that just means that you'll complete in 3 to 5 years. Okay. And our classes, well, I'll get to that, sort of our schedule in a little bit. But keep in mind that with the 2-year full-time 4 classes, it doesn't sound like a whole lot, especially for those of you who are undergrad. Some of you are like, oh, I took 19 credits, 20 credits as an undergrad, so what, can I just take more classes and shorten the length? The answer is no. Our courses are pretty much built in. Every semester is planned out. So there's not a whole wide range of classes for you to choose from. It's kind of basically all the 60 credits basically mapped out for you from the time you come in to the time you leave. Also keep in mind that during your second year, students are required to complete 600 hours of supervised fieldwork experience, and basically a practicum. And what that is that you're actually going into the apply and be placed in a clinical setting of your interest. So it could be a community mental health center, a hospital, a school-based clinic, for example. So these are the settings where you're going to get actual clinical experience, supervised clinical experience. And those supervised clinical experience for the state of New Jersey will count towards your part of your licensure. Okay, so that's also, so you have to kind of keep in mind that besides the 4 classes, during your second year, you have the practicums, which comes to about 15 to 20 hours a week, plus your other life obligations and work and all that. So it is going to be a very intense 2 years. It's not going to be sort of anything that's easy. But with that said, most of our students talk about the program that even though it has a lot of courses and practicum, but they also learned a lot, and that they grow a lot and learn a lot. So here is just a sample sequencing of our 2-year plan. So for those of you who are interested in complete this full time. So in the fall and spring or first year, you take 4 classes each and started out with the foundation class courses, theories, intro to clinical practice. To the second year, you have clinical practicum, it's an actual course. So you do meet with the practicum, and it's basically a group supervision course, and learn more advanced class courses in assessment, developmental psychopathology, and also sort of more advanced therapeutic techniques. Okay. And during the summertime, for those of you pursuing the 60 credit option, you'll be taking 2 elective courses in the summer between the first year, second year, and also in the summer you're about to graduate. So that gets you up to the 60 credits. And for those of you who only wanted the 48 credits and maybe move on to do something else, going for doctoral programs or doing other things, and then you just take the courses during the fall and the spring, the regular semester. You don't need to take the summer classes. All right, so let me move on. So in terms of our courses, in terms of sort of the scheduling, right? We know that some of our students are working, so we understand that sometimes this is just part of the reality that we all have a part-time or full-time job. So what we try to do is to schedule our classes on 2 to 3, no more than 3 days. Most of the classes are scheduled 2 days per week. So an example would be a class will be a Tuesday from 9:30 to 12, and then another class from 2 to 4:30, and then another will be another like a Tuesday or Thursday, or like a Monday or Wednesday. Okay, so you have 3 full days cleared up to scheduling work, your practicum, or other life obligations. But do keep in mind that our classes are offered during the daytime. Okay, so if you have one of those jobs that are traditional 9-to-5 jobs and they have no flexibility, then this unfortunately will not be the right program for you. This is the type of program. Well, I mean, again, we do have some students that do have to work a lot of hours, but we encourage our students to work, or recommend our students not to work more than 20 hours a week, so that you can still balance your academic applications. Okay. During our second year, classes are offered in the afternoon. So what that means is that we will start in the afternoon. So again, still usually 2 days a week, but we'll start a little later. So we'll be like a 2 to 4:30 and then a 5 to 7:30. So that way you do have the morning. So for students who need to kind of fit in the practicum experience and all that they can kind of fit in the morning. Okay. All right. So a little bit about our faculty, and I think this is certainly an area of strength for our program. Pretty much all of our faculty members are licensed psychologists. And so we're licensed and practicing psychologists. So a lot of times you have program faculty in the field where, you know, so the last time they saw a client was 20 years ago, right? We actually all are actively practicing in different settings. Some of us have private practice, some of us has actually working in the mental health clinics. So we're actively engaged in clinical work, but we're also full-time faculty at Williams-Patterson University, engaging active research activities, and also teaching and supervising our students. So we very much kind of have the perspective that we're bringing in what we're doing in the field to the classroom and connecting what you're learning in the classroom to something that's very much applicable and relevant to the field. So you're gaining the skills that you'll need to actually apply to your future career. In terms of clinical research strength, we have faculty members that are specialized in health psychology, multicultural counseling, community and school-based interventions, trauma and resilience, neuropsych, and also couples and family therapy. Okay, so these are just some of the area of strength, but we also have faculty members in the PsyD program that are not listed here, but they also have areas of specialty in evidence-based treatment, for example, the CBT, mindfulness-based interventions, and also there's again there's also, we have a large psychology department with 27 faculties altogether. So we have other faculty members who does research specializing working with children and autism, for example, and so on. So in terms of those who are interested in pursuing both the clinical and the research aspect of in terms of development, you're not limited to only work with faculty in the master's program. We actually encourage our students to connect with any faculty member in our psychology department to engage in these additional research experience. All right. So in many ways, I think the question I always get from students, well, prospective students, is that sort of what can I do with this degree, a master's degree in clinical and counseling psychology? So at this point, I think a lot of you probably are here because you are interested in becoming a mental health professional. And to do so, you most likely want to pursue a licensure in the state, whichever state you want to be working in the future, right? So this is sort of the main focus of our training is very much still training our students to become a mental health, like a master's level mental health professional. So preparing you for the LPC. And we are very much a generalist program. So what that means is that we're training our students to work with a range, sort of working wide range of settings. That could be, so the clinical skills you gained, it could be applied towards different type of mental health agencies, clinics, hospitals, and for-profit, nonprofit industry. And with that, we are more or less of an adult-focused program. So the skills you learn mostly apply to working with adults, but certainly with the adolescent and child, we do have a good number of students are interested in working with children and adolescent. And typically they gain that experience through their practicum site. And also during your second year, you will have a coursework on developmental psychopathology. But that said, if your sole purpose is only working with children, and also much, much younger children, where sort of the talk therapy is not necessarily going to be effective, then we may not necessarily be the right program for you. We are also, I think this is also the part that I think that it makes us stand out compared to some of the other programs, that because a lot of our faculty members are active researchers, so we also help our students prepare for research careers. If for those of you who are thinking at this point sort of not 100% sure which direction to go into, again, we do have students, graduates who are working in research labs and research facilities at different universities and research centers in the area. Okay, and also this is, I think, a big part is the doctoral program preparation. That again, we're not necessarily guaranteeing you that you're going to just because you attend our master's program, you're going to definitely get into a doctoral program. But I think for those of you coming straight out of undergrad, or those of you who didn't have a whole lot of undergraduate research experience, the coursework in the master's program plus the additional research experience involving them and faculty's research team and research lab will help you become a much stronger applicant to get into a doctoral program in clinical and counseling psychology. Okay? Because those programs are, as many of you probably already know, are extremely competitive. Oftentimes the admissions rate maybe 5%, 10%, right? So at least I think a lot of our students who are master's students who wanted to go that route, to going on the doctoral programs, we offer a good foundation for you to kind of go on to apply for those programs. Sorry. Just really quick, I think these information are mostly on pretty much all on our website, so I'm not going to go into too much detail in terms of admissions requirement, but just the very basic that you need a bachelor's degree or at least senior about to graduate. And a minimum GPA is 3.0. Here's the good news. Because of the pandemic, we understand the difficulty for students to sit in for standardized tests sitting down for an exam to go into a test center. So the GRE is waived for this submission cycle. Okay, so for those of you who have not yet taken the GRE, that's good news for you. We do not need you to submit the GRE, so you don't even need to bother, at least for this year. But next year, we're going to have to see. Okay. Yeah, and for those of you who already took the GRE and you have decent scores, and if you want to go ahead and submit your GRE code for us to look at, we will still look at it, but we're not going to necessarily factor that into our admissions decision. But here's we have a SciCast specific code so to use. So that's different from the general GRE code for the university. So just keep that in mind. We do ask our applicants to submit a personal statement to address the following questions. We want to know what is it that led you to want to pursue a career in clinical and counseling psychology? What are your own sort of assessment of your area of strength and weaknesses? How would that impact your ability to attain your academic and professional goals? And why do you think that our program is a good fit for you? Okay, and we do want you to kind of spend some time kind of thinking through these issues and address that. And certainly this is also a space, if you have any past relevant experience or any areas that kind of you want to highlight in terms of your interesting work experience and personal experience, research experience, academic experience. This is certainly where we want to learn a little bit more about it as well. Okay. We also ask our applicants to submit at least a CV or a resume, at least 3 professional recommendation letters, preferably from a faculty or a work supervisor who knows you well. And these are the undergraduate coursework. These are actually our prereq courses. So Gen Psych or Intro to Psych, Abnormal Psych, any type of stats or research methods courses in psychology or relevant field, and also developmental psychology or lifespan and child development classes is fine. Okay, so these are the prereq courses that we need. You don't have to be an undergrad psych major, but at least we ask our students coming with these courses as a foundation. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. And now I am moving. All right. Just a few more things. So after the application submitted, and we ask our applicants to submit the application through SciCast, which is the Psychology Common App site. Our CIT program also uses the same site. So this materials should be submitted through SciCast rather than our William-Patterson graduate portal, the application portal. Once everything's submitted, we review your application. You will receive an email from our coordinator to invite you for an interview. Actually, this year, of course, we're not going to offer any more on-site interviews, so all the interview will most likely, will be done over Zoom. The application deadline is March 1st, but we encourage our students well, actually, the first deadline is March 1st, and then the final deadline is May 1st. So we encourage our students anyone interested, you start kind of requesting for letters, transcripts, and all those things, and get them in hopefully way before March 1st. So that just in case there are some hiccups, that there's some time to kind of for you to catch up on submitting the application. The reason why we encourage students to submit by March 1st is that if you're interested in applying for, actually be considered for a graduate assistantship, then we need you to get it in by March 1st, because we need to make a decision usually by the end of March about who will offer them grad assistantship. But the students who are not necessarily interested in grad assistantship, the final deadline is May 1st. Okay, and also we're a fall enrollment only program, so we unfortunately don't have the resources to offer to admit students all year round. So everyone starts in the fall. And the course, like I said earlier, all the courses are planned out for the next 2 years. All right. So I'm going to stop here, and the last slide has the information of our graduate student service coordinator, Dr. Uzma Ali. She could be reached here in this email here. And so any type of questions, sort of general questions, and certainly just even checking in about the application status, or case-specific questions about your certain special circumstances, you can all go to Dr. Ali first. And certainly I'm available as well, but Dr. Ali is on email round the clock usually. So she would reply to you much quicker than I do. But if there's anything, if you want to CC me in it, absolutely. And then, and again, more general questions could go to our graduate admissions office. All right, so I'm going to stop here. So let's see, Brian, if you have, I don't know if there's any specific questions already coming in.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ma. As she had mentioned, if you have very case-specific questions, we would encourage you to send them to Dr. Uzma Ali at the address that's provided there. She can delve a little bit deeper into your inquiries and give you the amount of attention and focus that you would need to get the right answers. If you have more general questions now, you can type them in the chat box on the GoToWebinar screen. If you want us to elaborate on anything that you heard about, we're happy to delve in a little bit deeper. As she mentioned as well, you can see the email address for for William Patterson's graduate admissions office. It's graduate@wpUNJ.edu. I would stress we are on the SciCAS application for our MA in Clinical and Counseling Psychology, so your documents would be submitted directly to SciCAS. I mention that just so you don't inadvertently send them to the email address that's listed there, but that email is good for general questions about the application process. If you want us to look up information about the status of your application, we're obviously happy to do so. So certainly feel free to reach out to us anytime for more information about that. It looks like we got some questions that are coming through, so let me just look at them quick.
Sure.
Dr. Ma, you mentioned that you're committed to social justice and multiculturalism. How does that show up in your curriculum or other aspects of your program?
Sure. So one thing is that we highlight one thing is that we do have a course on cultural issues in clinical practice. And this is basically a multicultural counseling course. And this is a standard course for every counseling clinical psychology program. But what we do is that we make sure our students not just sort of learning about okay, we're learning about other people. We first actually ask our students to do a lot of self-examination and self-awareness work on examining your own racial identity, ethnic identity, gender, sexual orientation, religious identity, social class, power, privilege, all that. So we spend a good amount of time kind of addressing those issues, and in terms of self-awareness, and also kind of examining your own biases. That's a big part of sort of not just the class. Well, so I teach the cultural issues class. That's why I can go into all that. So we're not only challenging our students to do a lot of self-examination, and this is not just in my class, but in our clinical practice class, we basically push our students to kind of look into that. But we also kind of focus on also learning about sort of these sort of specific issues and how that translate into clinical work with a racially and culturally diverse population. Okay. And once again, this is emphasized in the first year coursework in the cultural issues class and also the clinical skills class. The professor also kind of pushed students kind of to really kind of apply that in the clinical sort of in your clinical practice. One thing also that I do want to say, this is not exactly relevant to the specific question, but it's important to highlight that the way we train our students in the clinical skills is that we actually have students do counseling sessions. A lot of programs offer this, but we actually have our students record counseling sessions with a peer. Okay, so we ask the peers to kind of bringing in an issue that's not a life-shattering kind of an issue, and you actually have to kind of utilize the skills you learned and provide counseling and record it, and then we actually show it in class and for students to kind of look at it, and then you have to write a lot of reflection paper to kind of examine sort of process that's going on. So a lot of times these kind of multicultural sort of issues and bias, so we're talking about issues and biases and all that stuff will come up in your first year as the kind of sort of practice sessions. And during your second year in the practicum sites, a lot of students going to practice sites basically just by nature of the geographic location and the population here are working with again, racial and culturally diverse population. So during the practicum class, students actually will spend a lot of time actually talking about applying the multicultural counseling theories into the population, and then how to better serve the population they're working with and the challenges around that. So I would say that the way kind of, so we also talk about these sort of social justice, multicultural issues in the forefront. So we're not just talking about it and then put it aside. We kind of keep on kind of bringing them back into a kind of infusing in a lot of our coursework. So our students will be hopefully, at least sort of the end of when they graduate from our program, at least knowledgeable and also comfortable talking about these issues, and also being able to kind of better serve the population. And not just sort of, okay, I learned about this, and then I kind of put it aside. So I hope that answers the question.
And then I might be able to jump in on another question that came through. One of our attendees asked if there are scholarships offered. And I can tell you that there are a limited number of donor scholarships that are available each year. That would oftentimes be the case where there might be a donor to the university who made a gift and requested that it be given to a graduate student who is pursuing the MA in clinical and counseling, for example, and you'd be considered for those automatically. That doesn't require a separate application process. There are third-party scholarships as well. Some companies, places of business, and otherwise may offer scholarships as well. There's information about funding for graduate students on our financial aid website. I know Dr. Ma talked about graduate assistantship positions, which are typically appointed from September 1st through June 30th. And those include the costs of tuition and fees as a part of your appointment. There is a $6,000 stipend that is broken between the 2 semesters, the fall and the spring, and are paid out in the form of a biweekly paycheck. And then you would work for 20 hours per week part-time for one of the offices here on campus. So that, as you might imagine, is a competitive opportunity that's available. And then we do have financial aid available. You have to complete the FAFSA form and submit it, and that is typically in the form of federal loans. But I didn't know, Dr. Muth, there's anything you wanted to add to that, but I figured I would field that one.
Yes, thank you. So I'll just add a little bit about the grad assistantship aspect. So this is, as Brian mentioned, it's competitive because a lot of our applicants wanted this opportunity, but for the master's program, we typically, again, depending on the funding, so there's no guarantee next year it will be the same. But in the past, every single year, we get at least two slots, but basically two graduate assistantship awards that we can give to incoming master's students. So these are, again, just Brian mentioned, these are graduate assistantship that comes with 20 hours on work on campus, but it also comes with the tuition and fee waiver and the $6,000 per year stipend. That's why if you're interested in this opportunity, you should apply early and make sure you meet our March 1st deadline.
And another attendee asked, are there several parts to the interview, such as a written portion?
No, no. The written portion is basically your personal statement. That's kind of your yeah. So that's basically it. So the interview will be, I would say most likely, probably a 30-40 minute interview with one of the faculty members. And basically just giving us a chance to get to know you, and for you to also kind of to ask questions to help us understand that learn a little bit more about you and see will be a good fit.
And we had a few questions that came through that were asking the more general question: does a student have to have completed all of the prerequisite courses in order for them to be able to apply and be considered for the program? If they're short one or two, would they still potentially be considered for the program? How do you typically handle that, or what would your advice be to somebody who's trying to assess if they have got the prerequisites in hand?
Right. That's a great question. So let's just put it this way. We will still review your application if you're short of one or two courses. And so it really depends. So for students who came in with a psychology major or minor, And so you have a range of psychology courses already, perhaps different. I mean, again, these are courses that are pretty standard for most psych programs, but just in case a student may be missing one, for example, like an abnormal, right? Then we are not necessarily going to sort of dean you on it, so to speak. But we will look to kind of make sure that if your other sort of courses, relevant courses, at least talk about psychopathology or diagnosis, that kind of topics, to kind of make sure you have at least some basic knowledge coming in. In that case, we're not necessarily going to have to ask you to make up for that course later. Okay. But this is important for those of you who are not psychology majors or didn't have a minor in psychology, and you may be coming from a different type of background. Then in that case, we would really require students to at least have these classes, some of these classes. And just to highlight here, the gen psych abnormal developmental courses are more of a, mostly basically these are all psych courses. But stats or research methods could be from a different discipline. So if you have like taken courses, even just an undergrad math class, statistics course, we will take that. Okay, so that's the difference. So if you're sort of short on one, again, then we could probably kind of let it go, or just at least kind of to see if you had the knowledge somewhere else. But if you're missing a lot of these, then we would generally require students the applicant to take these classes before they apply. So my advice is that if you're still in the undergrad program, you still have time. So if you're not graduating yet, these are classes you can take, maybe spend the winter or the coming spring to take these classes, just so that you're prepared. This also will help you when you come into our master's program, that you're at least sort of on the same level, knowledge base wise, with the incoming students.
And what role, if any, does William Patterson have with the assigning of internships, or is it on the student themselves to procure internship opportunities?
Right. So I don't have a slide for this, so I'm not going to change my slide. So in terms of the internship opportunities, so it's twofold. Let's just say put it this way. We're not necessarily assigning our students or placing our student in the sense that everybody, okay, well, this student here, that student there, because our students actually coming in actually have a wide range of interests. And their interest sometimes also differs, and sometimes they have in terms of geographic location, they may have restrictions. It's like, okay, I can only do sites closer to Central Jersey, for example, because of the commute. So that's why we don't necessarily assign our students or place our students necessarily in sites. The way it works is that we do have a short list of practicum sites that we have a relationship with, where we have good students that come there before, have good experience there, and sometimes there are a few newer sites that are added into the list. And with the list, a short list, maybe perhaps sort of 15, 20 different sites, or maybe a little more, we ask our students to do their research, background research, and then look into the population they're interested in serving, the type of services that offer, schedule, etc., and your interests, right? So those, for example, some students want more child experience, some students want more neuropsych, some students want sort of more, for example, severe psychopathology or severe mental illness, or someone want a more cognitive disability, right? So again, so you do a little bit more research about these different sites, what they're offering, and then narrow down to 2 or 3 that you want to apply. And then we will contact those sites, letting them know that these are our students that wanted to apply, and you arrange for interview with them, and then see if you received an offer from them to basically for that practicum. Okay, so it very much is sort of, okay, there's a short list, but you still have to do the work to apply, go through the interview process. So kind of like applying for jobs. But the difference from applying for jobs is that along the way, our practicum coordinator, who's Dr. Uzma Ali, actually is our grad service, student service coordinator, and our practicum coordinator. She will help you along the way. and checking with you and help you communicate with the sites, different sites if there's some issues, and help you sort of problem solve. So all of our students will have a site by the time you start your second year. Okay, it's just that you will kind of need to do also the legwork as well.
And then there are two questions that came through, and I can probably field these two. One was the cost per credit. I think it's important to keep in mind that the tuition cost that I'm going to cite is fall 2020, spring 2021. It's $808 per credit. I know that typically this is reviewed each year. It can go up by about 1.5, at most 2% annually. That's after the Board of Trustees and others review that information for the upcoming year. Typically comes out in July and is posted publicly in July. So I can't tell you definitively at this time what the increase could potentially be for the fall 2021, spring 2022 year. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. And I know another student asked about if there would be a reduction in the cost of tuition if the courses have to be instructed virtually. I can tell you that right now, that's not the case. It is the same cost for the tuition. And as you might imagine, it's hard to predict what things will look like in the fall. I know I speak for everyone when I say I really hope by the start of the fall semester that we are back to being fully on campus or something close to it. But certainly that'll very much depend on COVID-19, the circumstances on the ground. I know President Heldobler works very closely with other presidents from colleges and universities around the area, as well as the governor and the CDC and Department of Health, and they are going to continue to follow their recommendations moving forward. But we will all certainly keep our fingers crossed that it will be a very different environment in which we find ourselves come the fall.
Right. Thank you, Brian. Also, can I also just add that if sort of the worst case scenario in the next fall, we still have to try to offer our classes online. We do offer synchronous class for all grad classes. We offer synchronous basically over Zoom. So I know it's not ideal, but our students just at least going through this whole process this past fall, our students still find it they are able to engage in in-class discussions, find it beneficial to do it over Zoom. And we also sometimes have hybrid, so some students are on Zoom, some person come in person. So we find a way to make it work and still engage our students, and they are still learning. So it's not just sort of what put a class online, Blackboard shell, and you just going on to figure things out on your own. It's not like that. Okay, so just want to make that clear.
And then I know, the summer session is a unique term at William Patterson. Overall, there are 3-week, 4-week, 6-week, 12-week courses. Can you talk a little bit about what most of the courses might look like for a student for the summer session specifically?
Yes. So actually, so summer classes will be all online. And summer classes will, the 4 summer classes that we offered will be asynchronous. So meaning that it will be more traditional sort of online course, meaning that kind of things are on Blackboard shell, but you do have to go into engaging discussion to do the discussion through Blackboard and turning assignments through Blackboard. Okay, and those classes are mostly 6 weeks. So it won't be like a 2-3 week. It will be I think, 3 out of the 4 will be 6-week class. And usually offer the beginning part of the summer. So will be based. So typically it's like usually right after Memorial Day, and then goes on until end of June, 6 weeks. Okay, so that also helps because some students, not all students, are living in the area. So if we have students who needed to move back home out of state or to go somewhere else to kind of be that, so they can pack up in May and then move back home, and then they can still complete the last 2 courses from wherever they are in the summer.
Thank you very much. And then another student asked if they should be filling out the William Patterson application as well as SciCas. I can confirm you will only be completing the SciCas application. If you went to the William Patterson University graduate admissions application, you would notice that the MA in Clinical and Counseling Psychology would not be one of the options in the drop-down menu. So I would encourage you to go directly through SciCas, and that link is up on the website. And this is obviously a question that you probably hear a lot. What are some of the most important components when you're considering an application on whether they might be a good fit for the program?
One is that we want our students and applicants coming in to kind of have a clear sense of why they want to be here. So try to be as specific as possible to kind of talk about your motivation to want to become a helper or getting to the field, mental health counseling field. The clear desire, motivation, and certainly you can talk about sort of your past experience, coursework, all that, and that's fine to kind of support that, and give us a sense of kind of where you want to go with all this. Not everyone knows sort of exact clear job that they want or a specific field they're interested in going into. You may have a more or less of sort of a broad sense, but not necessarily very specific at this point, which is fine. We just want to get a sense of kind of, you have a sense of why you're here and where you want to go. And that's communicated clearly. Because oftentimes we get applicants sometimes sort of have very vague sense of what that means to become a mental health counselor or become a psychologist, or what does it mean to kind of be a helper, right? They have very vague sense, and then they may say things like, "Oh, I just want to help people." Okay, everyone coming in this field wanted to help people. What does that mean? What does that look like, and why? And what motivates you to do that? So that's kind of what we want, a little bit more of that. Give us a little bit more of that, okay? And also we want students who are able to self-reflect, have a good sense of kind of, so that should kind of come across as in your essay. And certainly the sort of very basic thing is that a strong academic background, at least a 3.0 GPA, but basically at least basically mostly A's and B's in your upper level courses, especially in psychology classes, because our program is demanding. And we, unfortunately, in the past, students who are coming in with a lower GPA, or some of the students coming in with courses, just typically coming in more B's and C's, it doesn't really give us an indication that you're ready for graduate level coursework. So that's sort of the basic kind of thing that we're looking at. We actually don't, even in the past, we require GRE. We're not necessarily going to kind of toss your application because your GRE score is low, but it would definitely help your GRE is strong. What else? And we certainly hope that the applicants coming in are in many ways kind of have a sense of kind of where because we did talk about sort of the social justice and multicultural counseling aspect. So certainly if you have those interests, it helps. And if you have any interest in any of the areas, and I should kind of just pull off this slide here, that kind of maps on well with some of the current faculty research interests, I think those are certainly a plus as well. At least that helps, that shows that you did your research, you looked into our faculty, and there's faculty you're interested in working with, and that at least that shows that you're serious about our program. You're not just kind of applying for any generic programs out there.
And then another question is the program accredited for licensure?
Yes. So we are, I did not have a slide for, but it is posted on our website. So we are accredited by Masters, the MPCAC, so MPCAC, the Masters in Psychology and Counseling, Masters in MPC, Masters in Psychology and Counseling Accreditation Council. So that's the acronym is MPCAC. So we're accredited by this organization, and we are, in terms of applying for licensure, in the state of New Jersey and New York and certainly the surrounding areas, that there shouldn't be any issue. We have most of our students end up staying in New York or in the New Jersey area, some are in the surrounding states. They didn't necessarily have any issue applying for licensure. But I do need to put that out there that there's another accrediting body called the KCRAP. Okay, they're basically a counseling accrediting body. They only accredit a program that's a counseling program. I know it's very confusing because our program is clinical and counseling psychology, and what is that? How is that different from a counseling program? So basically, KCRAP programs are only accrediting programs that are housed under sort of the counseling program, and usually offer the college education or other programs that's not within the field of psychology. So if you look at any of the KCRAP programs, none of the coursework will have the name psychology in there, in any of the course titles, because they don't want that. And their faculty actually has to have a PhD in counselor education. Okay, so KCRAP will actually have their own accrediting body. Is another accrediting body, has the whole set of accrediting programs. And there are a few states here in the U.S. that would only allow graduates of KCRAP programs to apply for licensure in their states. And so I believe I can't recall the top of my head. There are a few states, but I think Virginia is one of them, maybe Ohio, I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so if you're interested in possibly moving to some of those states, you might want to research the licensure requirements in those states to be sure. And then in that case, I would say that maybe our program would not be the right program for you. But if you are interested in staying in New Jersey or surrounding area, that should not be an issue. And also just to keep in mind that I think our program, once again, because we are psychology faculty, we're licensed as psychologists. All the faculty are licensed as psychologists when we're under the psychology department. So we're very much a psychology program. And so if your goal is later on to become a doctoral level counseling or clinical psychologist, then I think our program will probably be a better fit for you rather than a counseling program, because we are sort of more still housed under the traditional psychology. Of course, there's a lot of overlap between KCRAP versus MPCAP program, but I won't go into too much detail about that. But I do want you to, at least for those students asking that question, look at the state licensure requirement and then kind of then decide if our program is the right program for you. But here in New Jersey, you will be fine.
And then another question that came through, I might be able to just answer quickly. The question was, do we offer housing options for international students? And the answer is yes. There are 2 residence halls on our campus that include graduate housing. There's more information on our website. If you look up the Department of Housing, there's a direct email address if you want to start a dialogue with that department. They can talk to you about the different options, about cost, and start to have that conversation with you. But do know that housing is available if you're interested in living on campus as a graduate student. Another question was, how many spots do you anticipate being open for admission for the fall of 2021 for the program?
So we typically accept students, let's just put it this way, the typical number of students coming in, the cohort, we go by the cohort model, is anywhere from 10 to 15, 16. So, and usually we accept a little bit more than that, but just somehow the number of people ended up coming here comes to about 10 to 6, maybe 10 to 15, somewhere in that range. And you can see that in our program website has the statistics. So in many ways, we are a relatively small cohort that these 10 to 15 students, you take every single classes together during the 2 years you're here, and you do get a lot of attention from our faculty members. But we don't necessarily try to eliminate sort of students, kind of reject students based on the number. Usually it kind of just happens so that we ended up with this number.
And then do students who complete the MA have an increased chance or better odds for being considered for our own PsyD program in your experience?
That's a very good question. So once again, I do have to put in the sort of the I guess just to clarify that just because you're in our master's program does not necessarily guarantee you the chance of getting to our PsyD program. Okay, so there's no guarantee. So I don't want anyone coming in with any false assumption. Well, maybe this is a different sort of another door to get in, right? But with that in mind, it certainly helps, but again, no guarantee. So what that means is that because the first 2 years, let me just go to the previous slide with the course. Yeah, this side. So in terms of first year, 2 years of coursework, it's very much identical to our PsyD program's first 2-year curriculum, with maybe a few courses that are different. Okay, so basically, you're basically so when you completed our master's program, you're basically done with the first 2 years of PsyD coursework. And so if you start our own PsyD right afterwards, then you start in the 3rd year. Okay, and then maybe you have to take a few additional courses that's not listed here. So you are definitely at a disadvantage. You're not starting off from brand new. You're starting out as a 3rd-year student. And also because you work with our faculty members, so we know you and we know you well. And so those students who are strong candidates and that faculty members know can write a very good recommendation letters for, it certainly helps. I think it is sort of they would definitely certainly consider you. But that said, we also have, unfortunately, in some cases where some of the students in our master's program may not necessarily left a very good impression for our faculty. Sort of they're good enough to graduate, but doesn't necessarily leave a good impression where we're strongly recommending them to get into our PsyD program, and so that's not going to necessarily help you either. So I just want to also kind of put that out there. So the question, the short answer is that there's sort of the yes part, there's the yes part to it, but also please don't bank on it. And I also want to put in on one more thing is that not all PsyD programs are the same. So after you started out in our master's program, and usually that happens during your anywhere from your first or 2nd year, is that your clinical interests will change, and your population you want to work in, the setting you want to work in, and your future career goal might change, may evolve. I should say it will evolve probably over time as you gain more knowledge and experience in the field. So what you thought you wanted to do when you come in may not be the same 2 years from now. So our PsyD program, and later on when you get the chance to research a little bit more, you may realize that the training they offer, it may be exactly what you need, or it may not be exactly what you need. So that in that case, we would certainly encourage our students also to apply for other doctoral programs. So I also just want to kind of put that out there.
And then we have one final question, and then the time's out nicely because we're right shy of 6 o'clock at this point. What are things that William Patterson students and faculty in this program have in common that makes them work well together and makes this a special program?
Ooh, that's a great question. I like this question. We are. What makes us kind of work special and kind of work well together? We are very much a student-centered program. I mentioned earlier that the cohort is small, so we are in many ways kind of on top of our students, whether you like it or not, right? And we do care about our students, and we meet regularly to discuss different issues that come up with the students, and we don't necessarily always try to do the hand-holding, but we will kind of help you provide any support we can. So I think that's the part where our alumni and graduates of our program kind of talked about, is that they feel like they get a very solid training, clinical skills when they go out to do in the workforce. They feel like they know a lot more compared to some of the graduates of other programs. They have the good experience, good foundation, and also again, our faculty, we all love teaching and research and our clinical work, and we care about our students' development. So, and we do the best we can to kind of help you prepare for your future, whatever that future looks like for you, and give you sometimes the harsh feedback you may or may not want to hear at the moment, but later on, hopefully you will appreciate when you're out there practicing. So I think those are all, and then again, I mentioned this earlier, that a lot of us are practicing clinicians, so we are trying to teach our students things that we think you need to know as a clinician, a practitioner. and not just, but also with the theory knowledge base that's out there. Okay. Hope that answers that question.
Thank you very much. And that brings us right on the dot to 6 o'clock. So
Great.
I want to thank everyone for taking time again out of your schedule to join us. We really do appreciate it. We certainly hope that this was helpful. We hope that you got a lot of information. If you haven't already began your application and you're giving serious consideration for the upcoming fall semester, I would encourage you to get your application in and your documents in as soon as possible so you can enjoy the rest of the holiday season with one fewer thing to worry about and think about. Dr. Ma, thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation and very helpful. And for all of us here at William Patterson, we hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Have a very happy holiday season. And certainly we hope to see your application and get the chance to speak with you in the near future. So from all of us here, thank you so much and have a good weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.